Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Well, I've run into the plug boyfriend from calling my daughter entitled mother again. Looks like I'll give a short rundown of it. I went to meet an old friend at a local restaurant on my day off. I had a hoodie on, clearly identifying that I worked for the phone company. The entitled mother demanded I block my daughter's boyfriend from contacting the daughter, something that I couldn't do. Manager, the owner's daughter, got involved. The entitled mother threatened to get us all fired. The cops showed up and ended up arresting the entitled mother after she refused to leave and tried to fight the officer. Okay, so this time I'm actually working. Between work sites, I stop at my cousin's restaurant for lunch as it's on my way. This is one of those great little northern restaurants and bars about 30 minutes between anywhere else. I'd say I was biased, but really it's got a strong local customer base. This restaurant is named after our great-grandfather. We will call it Clyde's Place. Not to be confused with semi-famous drive-in in St. Agnes, Michigan. There has not been a Clyde in the family for close to 30 years. There's a tradition among the regulars to joke and cheer/buy rounds when someone says they know Clyde, often with loud, boisterous calls for "Are you Clyde?" or "I'm Clyde," filling the room. For the record, if you admit to being Clyde or somehow related, family and I excluded, you are saying that you are paying for that round for the bar. Yes, many of the locals know I'm family to the owner, especially as I bear a strong resemblance to him. The cast of the story: there is me, of course, the entitled mom, and her flock of friends, complete with free-range kids making a mess of everything in a 100-foot radius. Amy, the waitress, a bartender, the bouncer, longtime family friend, and self-proclaimed take-no-nonsense or prisoners military brat, also served in the army, and it shows. The niece, cousin's daughter but calls me uncle, my cousin, owner, and of course my cousin, and many regular local patrons. It's fairly busy for pre-tourist season, so I slide up to the bar and give Amy the signal to let the family know that I am there. A whole fried chicken and white toast, and that's when I hear it. The entitled mother says, "It's him! The reason my precious daughter is dating that psychopath. How dare he come in here?" I honestly pay no attention the first two attempts at getting my attention, but she gets louder and louder until I fully hear this one from across the room. So I turn around to see four base models Karens between 40 and 50 years of age, shooting daggers in my direction. I turned back around and tried to ignore them because frankly I didn't really remember the lead entitled mother. "How dare you ignore me like you don't know who I am?" Amy walks back to the bar giving me the "what the hell is her problem" look, and then we hear her say, "You're the reason I can't go back to the deck restaurant." "Well, guess what, mister? This time you're on my turf." The entitled mother friends cackle encouragement and agreement like a flock of hens. This is when I recognize a lead entitled mother from the previous disaster. Amy says, "Don't you bother our guests. And I've told you 4 times already. Control your kids or leave." Karen's friend attempted to cut off Amy. "Our kids aren't bothering anyone. He's bothering us," pointing at me. "I demand you throw him out immediately." Amy says, "That won't be happening. If anyone is leaving, it will be you and your little monsters." My niece runs out from the back and gives me a big hug and a kiss on the cheek. "Look at him fondling that little girl." My niece is 19, clearly not a child. "He's definitely a predator. Just wait till I tell my friend Clyde." The bar erupts with its normal cheering and calls for Clyde. But this doesn't faze the entitled mother outside of cutting her off. Amy asks her, "So you know Clyde?" Nearly everyone outside the entitled mother table snickers. The entitled mother, getting visibly perturbed, "Yes, I know him. We're good friends. Clyde." The restaurant erupts again, cutting her off. Her other friend says, "I am calling my husband Clyde." The regulars roar and cheer. I would have forgiven anyone walking in at that moment for thinking that the Lions had just won the Super Bowl. Amy quiets the crowd and says, "They don't know the rules, guys. We will be fair." But the other friend of Karen cuts Amy off. "Just wait till my husband finds out how we're being treated by a bunch of hicks." And you could have heard the pin drop from the space station as everyone waited for the inevitable. The friends start again, "My husband Clyde." And the crowd erupts as if the Lions won a Super Bowl and the Tigers have just swept the World Series. Even other clear tourists are catching on and having fun with the game. All four of the entitled mothers are now clearly perturbed at getting cut off and not getting the joke. I stand up and walk to the entitled mother's table, and I say, "I'm going to let you all in on a little something." I point to the photo above their table, a picture from the last family reunion before Clyde's passing. I say, "Does anyone?" But I get cut off by the third friend of Karen. "Don't try to intimidate us. This is her husband's place." I laugh, which causes more ire from the group, and she continues, "You screwed up coming here, mister." So I say, "Yeah, really can't afford a clue, can you?" The first friend gets a look as if she's starting to connect the dots that their ruse isn't going to work. But the entitled mother and the other two continue to double down as I walk back to my seat. The calls of my husband and empty threats continue undeterred by the interruptions from the regular. Then my cousin comes out. "Thank you, ladies, for visiting my establishment." Of course, Karen and her friends continue to try the "we know/married Clyde" routine. I'm bothered by the fact that they have been clearly called on their nonsense by everyone in the place, and ignore his polite requests that they leave. The first friend wisely excuses herself, wrangles her kids, and gets the heck out of there after paying for her portion. Amy and the regular, recognized as a retired county sheriff, flank my cousin. This of course brings more calls of being intimidated by the other three, who once they see the bill were all around screaming from them. Amy literally pulls the entitled mother up out of the seat and carries her out of the restaurant, giving her a dressing down you can hear from inside. Amy returns with the entitled mother's credit card and signals cousin. The cousin and sheriff inform the remaining two the tab has been paid, and they must remove themselves and their children or be removed. They finally buy the hint and go outside. I did find out that the bill was reduced because they had not actually been authorized to pay for rounds. Amy guards the door against re-entry along with cousin. Yeah, they didn't leave. First, they had someone call in claiming to be Clyde, demanding the meal for the entitled mother's group be comped to on the house, and that I be removed/permanently banned. Finally, they begin threatening niece that she will be fired if this is not done immediately. Yeah, that's gonna work. My niece puts the phone in my hand where I take a few to F with a caller. "Yes, sir." "Of course, sir. Sorry, sir. I've only been working here a week." Before finally giving the line, "Sir, none of that is going to happen. I work for the phone company. You are using an electronic device to attempt to commit fraud." He decides not to call my bluff and he hangs up before I can finish. But does this deter the entitled mother and her friends? Not in the slightest. They had already called the cops. Now, I don't know exactly what was said, but I gather from the officer and other conversations that they continued to claim being wife of the owner. They stated I was threatening and intimidating the group, and that I had molested my niece in front of everyone. Once being told point blank that they were not in fact in any shape or form part of the ownership by the officers, they complained that cousin had unfairly charged them for the harassment they endured. Despite this charge being removed, apparently they felt they should have eaten for free because of the drama that ruined their meal. Yes, folks, the drama that they caused ruined their meal. By the time I'm interviewed, last interview, it's pretty obvious that the officers have already determined that the entitled mother and her friends are full of bull crap. One of the friends peel out of the parking lot while I'm talking with the officers, which of course gets one of the other officers to pull her over. After all of this, I did get to enjoy my cousin's fantastic soup of the day. Irish potato soup, and a Reuben sandwich. This chain of events started almost 20 years ago and involves myself and notoriously snooty National Real Estate Agency. There is a bit of background leading to this incident, so please bear with me. This also occurred in QLD, Australia. I once rented the property through an agency from 2004 to 2006. Due to my ex-partner's explosive and violent temper, we have been handed an eviction notice. There was damage to the property that was unfixed at the time we were evicted. Damage that was in the form of fist and hammer-sized holes in walls and so on. We obviously did not receive any of the bond deposit back as the repair costs more than absorbed the amount. There was also an added sum of about $1,700 extra to cover the rest of the costs incurred repairing the damage. This amount was forwarded to a debt collections agency. This collection amount was in both of our names as we had jointly been on a lease agreement. I was not upset at the agency, they were just doing their job by being a good advocate for the owner of the property at this stage. Taking the bond and charging us for the repair was standard and not nasty, vindictive or overkill in the slightest. My anger came later. Although I must admit I was a bit miffed to be duly held financially responsible for the damage caused by my ex. But due to the nature of the joint lease, not much could be legally done. I was just grateful we had parted ways not long after. A few years post-eviction, I wanted to get my life more organized in many areas and tie up any loose ends that would impede me moving forward. A clean slate, so to speak. So the debt issue came first. After many phone calls and some paperwork exchange, plus an escalation or two, the debt collection agency finally agreed to split the $1,700 damages bill between the ex and myself. Now I could pay off half and not be held accountable for his portion any longer. This had to be done with his consent, as he refused. I'm unsure as to why, possibly hoping I will pay the whole amount to rebuild my credit rating, or most likely just to be annoying. Once I had paid off my portion of the collector's debt, I thought I was done with the whole business and a black mark against my name. Not so, unfortunately. It turned out that the state I lived in had a blacklist that real estate agencies and lessors could add tenants' names to. It's called the TICA list. All they needed was proof that the tenants had behaved in a bad enough manner regarding renting of a property to warrant being listed. The damage and also owed arrears to a debt agency for repairs, we unfortunately qualified. Being on this list made it almost impossible to rent, especially via real estate agency. After speaking extensively with the RTA, which is a government agency, I found I was definitely eligible to have my name removed from the list, so I started taking action for this to happen. I was able to demonstrate good faith by having paid for half the damages. It also went in my favor that my partner was abusive and there was legal evidence of this fact. However, I was told the only way to have my name removed was by the real estate agency. So I approached them and asked them to do so. They were very helpful initially. If I was able to show them proof that the debt was settled, they were happy to remove my name. At least 7 years had elapsed by this point, so it was considered punishment enough. At the time, after 5 years, your name is usually removed from the TICA list. However, this company apparently kept tabs on who they had added to the list, and when the person's 5 years expired, they just added them again. Dirty tactics indeed. Obviously, I have been re-added, so I provided relevant documents to the agency and was assured my name would be removed as soon as they located my file. This apparently had been stored away in archives as much time had passed since I rented with them. I was told this would take a week maximum. All good. So I called a week later and was told to wait another week, still in a kind, helpful and cordial tone. I called again after that time and was told to wait, you guessed it, another week. And this time I detected a tone of frost in a reply. So I called back more than a week later just to show patience and now was spoken to in a very haughty manner. I was informed that my request was bothersome, being so because what I asked was not important and finding my file was a waste of their staff time. They would call me when they got around to it. I expressed how important it was personally, and then heard the magic words, almost verbatim. If you want us to do this so badly, we will only be forced to help you if ordered. Perhaps you should take us to court if you can't be patient. Goodbye. String me along? Okay, game on. I had a feeling this was all done to avoid removing my name as they had found my file. Also that they were stalling and wanted me to stay blacklisted. But I wasn't backing down, was at a fight, and so I took their advice. I filed against them to have the matter seen in a small claims court. It cost me $35, which would be reimbursed by the agency if I won. I didn't have anything to lose and I wanted them to know that not all people will hold indefinitely or continue to be unjustly punished for longer than fair. It was listed to appear in about 4 days from filing. As soon as I received the court date paperwork, I was suddenly bombarded with phone calls. How dare I take the agency to court when they were working their hardest to find my file and help me? Doing my best to sound apologetic for taking their advice, I thanked him for the suggestion, as it seemed there would now be a time frame at least for the matter to be dealt with. On the day of the court, I had 3 sheets of paper as my sole evidence, a statement showing that the repair bill had been paid and there were no finances outstanding, a statement from the RTA that I was eligible to have my name taken off the ICA list, and lastly a document stating it was at the behest of the real estate agency to remove my name and that they had no good reason not to. Not one, but 2 agents from the company showed up to court. When it came before the judge, both parties had to give evidence if relevant. I handed them my 3 pages, seeing them pass a judge a thick folder of paperwork, including photos of the property damage, was rather amusing considering they supposedly couldn't find my file when last requested. The judge asked him for a statement, and they went on for a few minutes about why I didn't deserve to be removed, and justified their stance with the photos and prior rental history with them. And all I had to reply was that I had paid for my share of the damage, that the damage was due to my abusive ex, and that I had made restitution as much as I could regarding the matter, with no money owing. The judge then asked why I had brought it to court. I explained that the company was dragging their feet removing my name when it was a simple matter, and it wasn't necessarily fair to do so. That I had called them repeatedly and waited while they found my so hard to locate paperwork that had somehow miraculously appeared when convenient. That being on that list was harmful to my future chances at renting, and also that my name had been resubmitted after dropping off the list. The judge queried them why they had added my name again, and they stated it was company policy. The judge expressed agreement with my stance. I had been punished enough, had made financial restitution, and now that my file had been located, I was not to be blacklisted anymore. Case decided in my favor. Yes, it's a win. The real estate agency was given 48 hours to submit proof to the court and a copy to myself that I was now off the list, and they had to pay for the $35 I spent taking them to court. The pair of agents walked out in a huff and were on the phone out in the hallway immediately after vacating the courtroom. I floated past them as I was on a justice high. As I got to the left, I thanked them for coming and their sound advice in recommending court. Also that I was grateful for the bottle of wine they will be buying me with the $35 I was to be paid back. The look on their faces was absolutely priceless.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.